Hello everyone, Mr. E here for the first video of June, and that means it's Pride Month. Happy Pride everyone! For this month, I'll be doing a special feature in each one of my videos that I like to call Show Me the Queer Facts, where I'll be sharing with you a little factoid about the queer community that you might not have known. Today's queer facts: did you know that Three Musketeers is canonically the gayest candy bar? Make certain to leave any queer facts you might be aware of down in the comments, and while you're there, like and subscribe to the channel. Let's get on talking about today's video, which is all about Point Blank Barrage, one of Ogryn's least loved abilities, although it used to be on a little bit better terms. Point Blank Barrage is the ability you can see in the top left corner here. It's the ranged archetype for Ogryn. It swaps to and reloads your ranged weapon. You gain 25% rate of fire, 65% reload speed, 50% reduced brace movement penalties, and gain 15% close range damage for the next 10 seconds. All of this comes in a neatly bundled package with a cooldown of 80 seconds. So, there is a lot of issues here. We'll get into them in a second, but I think I should first explain where this ability used to be in the meta and where it currently stands. A big thing that used to define this ability was its modifiers. It has two modifiers that are exclusive. One is called Hail of Fire. Hail of Fire, which is stupidly named. It has fire in it, but the other one is the one that has the fire. This one used to give 30% rending while Point Blank Barrage is active. Now it's been changed to give 15% rending and 15% damage to your ranged attacks. By the way, all of this applies only to ranged attacks. Then the other ability modifier, the other exclusive one, is called Light 'em Up. Light 'em Up nowadays applies 4 stacks of burn for each shot while Point Blank Barrage is active, with a maximum stack count of 16. This used to apply only 2 stacks of burn, but it had a max stack count of 32. So this is quite a bit of change to these two ability modifiers, and the changes to these two modifiers are pretty much what has sunk the ship of Point Blank Barrage. That, in addition to being left behind in the dust while the other two abilities got nice hefty buffs, Point Blank Barrage has really fallen into obscurity. I mean, you might have noticed if you watched the channel, I haven't made any videos with it yet, and that is because I genuinely don't think there's any reason to bring this ability. So let's get into why it doesn't actually give you anything important. And this all comes down to the weapons that are at the Ogryn's disposal. As you can see on the right side of the screen here, we have the pitifully only 6 weapons that are available to the Ogryn class: the Ripper Gun, the Kickback, the Rumbler, the Heavy Stubber, the Twin Link Stubber, and the Grenade Gauntlet. And the real factor that we're going to be zeroing in on today is the fact that these weapons, the vast majority of them, do not make use of any of the stats, or nearly any of the stats that Point Blank Barrage provides. So we have a bunch of different stats that are in this ability here, right? We've got our rate of fire, 20. Yes, I want to rasterize the type. It's okay. 25% rate of fire, 65% weapon reload speed, 50% reduced brace movement penalties, and 15% close range damage. Out of all of those, I don't think that the braced movement speed is anything to consider, so I'm not even going to factor that into this part. The part that I did highlight Ripper Gun in red, who fucking knows? Rate of fire is the first one I want to take a little shot at here. So which of these weapons actually benefits from having a 25% increased rate of fire? Well, that would be the Ripper Gun to some extent, the Heavy Stubber to some extent, the Twin Link Stubber, and that's it. Right, 25% rate of fire is only going to affect the weapons that fire more or less automatically. Grenade Gauntlet still has the break between all of its shots. Rumbler is single shot, and Kickback is single shot. So these 3 weapons are going to get the benefit out of that rate of fire. Let's change our color up and talk about reload speed here. 65% reload speed. So which of these weapons are going to run out of their magazine enough times during the 10-second duration of this for 65% reload speed to be effective? Remember that this automatically reloads your weapon as soon as you equip it as well. So this is going to apply to the Kickback, to the Rumbler, and maybe to the Grenade Gauntlet, maybe. So the other weapons all have really, really big magazines. It's unlikely that you're going to finish off a magazine during this and need to reload. And then we have one final grouping of things here, which is the close range damage, which we'll highlight in blue. This close range damage affects weapons like the Ripper Gun, the Kickback, and maybe the Twin Link Stubber, depending on how you use it, right? Everything else is not really going to benefit from that close range damage. You're not using Heavy Stubber or Grenade Gauntlet. Grenade Gauntlet doesn't even arm its grenades in time if you shoot that close to yourself. And you're certainly not using the Rumbler to get point blank damage, because you're usually at a good bit of range. So this is the problem, right? This ability up here, which I guess I should like kind of hide some of this stuff now that I've made it all busy. This ability up here, it reads like it gives you a lot of stats, 25% rate of fire, 65, like a lot of numbers in there. So you get this illusion that it's like going to be offering you all this potency and power. And then it doesn't, because whatever weapon you choose, you're only going to be getting 1/3 to 1/2 of the benefits. And that is a damn shame, because the next thing we need to consider is the egregiously long cooldown that this ability has. 80 seconds. 80 seconds is a crying shame for such a pitiful ability. Compare that to, for instance, Voice of Command, which is a 30-second cooldown. We've also got Chorus for the Zealot, which is a 60-second cooldown. So if we were doing that math on Chorus, right, I think everyone can agree that maybe the Shout is a little bit overpowered, right? But Chorus isn't like that overpowered. Chorus is just a solid ability, right? Chorus has a 60-second cooldown, and Point Blank Barrage has an 80-second cooldown. So we would fully expect that Chorus is 1/3 worse. 1.33, repeating of course, is 1/3 worse than this ability, because this is an 80-second cooldown. It must be crazy good if it's going to have a 30% longer cooldown than Chorus. The other problem with this is the uptime, right? The uptime is a miserable 10 seconds. That's a 1/8 uptime. You have 10 seconds of active ability, which cannot be extended by any means, and then an 80-second cooldown. Compare this to the uptime of something like Shout, as we addressed. It has a 15-second buff, the 15-second gold buff, with a 30-second duration. That's a 1/2 uptime. Fully 4 times more uptime than Point Blank Barrage does. There's plenty of other abilities in the game that have crazy uptime, such as Scryer's Gaze, which I think is a great one-to-one comparison with Point Blank Barrage here. Scryer's Gaze gives you all sorts of damage stats, like crit stats and finesse and all that good juicy damage stuff. You'll do a ton more damage while it's active. The cooldown is very, very short compared to its overall uptime, and with the correct play and killing lots of elite targets, you can have your Scryer's Gaze cooldown up before it even finishes. Point Blank Barrage has such an oppressively long cooldown. You'll use this thing, you know, maybe 15 times a game, and even then, you're not getting much out of it. So the other things that I'm going to get into here, now that we've talked about how pitiful the cooldown is and how it doesn't really give you any stats to any of the weapons that we are looking at, is we need to look at the ability modifiers and see what they actually offer us. So firstly, Bullet Bravado. Bullet Bravado replenishes 2% toughness for every shot fired and 10% toughness for every reload. So we've got another split buff here. Let me go ahead and swap to a layer where you can actually see it. Rasterize the type. So we got 2% toughness there for that's for shooting shots, and then 10% whenever we reload. So what are the weapons that are going to get benefits from reloading? Let's go ahead and erase all this shit. Hold on. Wait, huh? What am I not doing right? Oh, I have my opacity set low. Okay, there we go. And it's still not working. What is going on? Oh, I'm on the wrong layer. My bad. Okay, there we go. Okay, there. Okay. All right. All right. Phew. Gotta clean up my whiteboard from time to time. So, oh shit, Ripper Gun. Okay, better. All right. So we need to look at which weapons are going to get benefits out of the shots fired first. So the weapons that are going to fire shots fast enough to make advantage of this are the Ripper Gun, are the Twin Link Stubber, and maybe the Heavy Stubber, but probably not, honestly, because the Heavy Stubber doesn't really fire all that fast. Then we have to look at the weapons that are going to get the benefits out of that nice reload speed, that extra, that 10% toughness every time you reload. That's going to be the Kickback and the Rumbler, and maybe the Grenade Gauntlet, but chances are you're probably not going to reload more than one time with the Grenade Gauntlet. So Grenade Gauntlet and Heavy Stubber get almost no benefits out of this, right? If you reload one time with the Grenade Gauntlet, while the 10-second buff is active, you get 10% toughness, and you'll shoot 5 grenades, so you'll get 20% whole toughness. Compare this to what a Twin Link Stubber can do, where it's shooting like, I think it's like 20, or it's like 12 or 15 rounds per second, right? So you're regaining a quarter of your toughness bar every second while this is active. So this definitely works for some of these, and it works for Kickback and Rumbler to a lesser extent, because you can get that full 10% every like second or two, but it really only works for those full auto weapons. And this is something that was very clearly designed just to give some sustain to Twin Link Stubber Ogrins. I mean, for crying out loud, the Twin Link Stubber, archetype with the Ogryn was in the art for it. Ogryn going full Daka with a big, Twin Link was in the art for the class. So we have to fully expect the design around that. So that's just kind of underwhelming. It's not going to offer you a whole lot, but that's okay because we're moving past that to the ability modifiers. The ability modifiers are certainly where this really starts to kick off and get its power, right? Well, we have to look at which weapons are going to benefit from these as well, but also we have to assess like how the nerfs have affected them. So let's first of all just look at, we've got these rending things here. This rending and damage, this hail of fire stuff, is going to affect weapons that hit infrequently and need to hit hard. That's going to be your Heavy Stubbers of the world, your Rumblers, and your Kickbacks. But what has happened is, since this used to be 30% rending and now is only 15% and 15% damage, it doesn't have anywhere near the effect it used to. It used to be that with 30% rending, that was a lot of rending. Like 30% is a lot more than 15 due to the way the game calculates it. So Kickback could penetrate a Crusher's armor and almost kill him in one shot, which was pretty dang nice. Now you will get a lot more dinking when you are shooting Crushers, because 15% rending is not enough to fully penetrate that armor, and there's really almost nowhere else to get that sort of stats with the Kickback or on the Ogryn. So the Kickback has taken a big nerf because it lost this, and this ability is no longer useful for any of the weapons that it used to be useful on. This is also kind of useful on Ripper Gun, right? Because Ripper Gun does do direct damage. Now the other, this could also be useful in Heavy Stubber. Honestly, this is probably the more widely useful one of them. Light 'em Up used to be the niche one. Light 'em Up used to be only used on one weapon and one weapon only, and that was the Twin Link Stubber. Everyone has seen this build in the past. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. The Ogryn with the Twin Link Stubber, he comes up, he goes berserko mode with point blank barrage, and he points the gun at the demon host or at the beast of Nurgle, and it goes to 32 stacks of fire, and 32 stacks of fire does a fuck ton of damage over time, and the boss dies within a couple of seconds, which was cool. But maybe Fat Shark said that, like, okay, that's kind of silly, you shouldn't be able to do that. So, and also because this was only useful with a weapon that could stack effectively to 32 times, hitting 16 times before a stack falls off, that meant only the Twin Link Stubber could do it in terms of attack speed. So you're pretty much stuck here. What they did is they made it so that it applies double the stacks of burn while reducing the max stacks a lot. So this opens it up to be played with more weapons. Like you could play it with Grenade Gauntlet, Heavy Stubber, Ripper Gun. All of these would be perfectly fine. Honestly, you could play with any weapon. It's just going to have a whole lot less effect. So this one, the Hail of Fire, went from being the general use one to now having almost no uses. If you're playing this with any gun now, you should probably just be taking the Light 'em Up to guarantee that you're getting some burn stacks, because almost every gun can hit a target 4 times before before the stacks start to fall off for burn. So that is the new sort of meta, and what has happened is like there's no reason to run this anymore, right? The only benefit that you are getting out of this ability is the ability to waste ammo faster, is the overall thing I want to say here. Because if we look at the way that the point blank barrage ability actually gives you damage, it wants you to shoot faster, to reload faster, and therefore shoot more shots. It doesn't give you a very considerable damage to your shots overall. So something like like the kickback isn't going to do considerably more damage while this is active versus normal. I mean, in fact, he's only going to do 15% more damage than normal if you're choosing Hail of Fire, and he's only going to do whatever the burn stacks can provide in the 10 seconds if you're using Light 'em Up. So there's barely any additional damage to be gained. The additional damage is from the reload speed and the rate of fire output, and that is not a good way to design this ability because ammo is a limiting factor. Twin Link Stubbers were already very ammo consumptive. You would use about twice the ammo of anybody else in your team to produce similar results, so you're an ammo hungry beast. And now we've got a situation where those Twin Link Stubbers are less effective at what they did before, but they are still just as ammo hungry. And at the same time, we've introduced a new endgame mode called Havoc, you might have heard of it, where ammo is a very, very finite resource, where there's 60% reduced ammo at the maximum difficulty. So you cannot go around wasting ammo like this. And this is the nail in the coffin for Point Blank Barrage. Because it doesn't sufficiently buff the damage of each individual shot that you do while it's active, and it just encourages you to shoot more ammo, you are much more advised to go with a more defensive ultimate and save your ammo, right? Save your ammo, and maybe you could go into Burst Limiter Override, which actually has active effects that can conserve ammo while increasing your damage throughput. This increases your damage throughput, not by a whole lot, mind you, and wastes a ton of a very finite resource on these higher difficulties. So that's the sort of situation that Point Blank Barrage finds itself in the modern era, is it just isn't relevant, especially when compared alongside Charge and Taunt, both of which got huge glow ups and are very, very dominant in the meta. So let's just kind of round this out by talking about the video I put out yesterday, or whenever you're seeing this. It's a video about is Ogryn OP? Well, I would say that for a ranged archetype of Ogryn, he is certainly not. I don't think there's any surviving ranged archetype for Ogryn that I would say is relevant in higher difficulties. I think anything that he does, his melee compatriots can do way better. So melee is certainly in a very, very good spot. And this was something I was interested. I read all your comments. There was over 250 comments, at least so far, after not even 24 hours. So I really appreciate you guys leaving those comments. I tried to respond to as many as I could, but the overwhelming sort of thought was split. There's a lot of different thoughts in the communities, and one set of voices that I heard was newer players who do see that the Ogryn is oppressive and is like, okay, he's just cleaning up the map all by himself. There's another set of newer players who are like, shit, people are so bad at my level, it doesn't even matter. If you gave them like an instant kill weapon, they would still find a way to fall off a cliff and die, which I can totally understand. I've seen that before. And there's a cadre of like higher tier players who are playing in Havoc. They're like, yeah, no shit, the Ogryn is overpowered. Like, you see 2 of him in every single Havoc game. Like, he is crazy right now, and he kind of like makes other classes like, veteran, like grenade veteran. Why would you ever run a grenade veteran when there's Rumbler Ogryn, right? It's pretty much the same thing. So I could see all those perspectives. I don't really have a huge opinion on myself. I definitely don't want him to be nerfed. I think he's a ton of fun, and I'm actually calling for buffs on him here, right? I think that they should leave everything else about his kit alone. I think he's fine. It's not going to break the game to have him be at the power level that he's currently at. And they also should buff Point Blank Barrage. They should make it into something new, brand new for yo-yos, or I don't know what the fuck does that mean. brand new, yeah, they should make it into something better than it currently is, because this is not something that contributes anything to any of the weapons that we have. What Point Blank Barrage should do is sort of up in the air. If you have any cool ideas for a new version of Point Blank Barrage, I'd love to see them in the comments. Normally I come in here prepared, but I think it's just like, I don't think that whatever this is good, unless they're just going to give you free ammo while you shoot, but that is going to run into conflict with Burst Limiter Override because it is effectively the same effect. So I don't think that's a good design to go for it. Yeah, I couldn't really come up with anything that I think would be a suitable replacement. If you have an idea, please let me know down in the comments. I would love to react to some of those. Maybe I can make a future video on some of the better ideas. And that's about all I had to say today. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about this because I know I've been like talking a lot about Ogryn builds and stuff lately, and he's certainly the new boy on the scene, and Point Blank Barrage has not been getting a lot of love, and it's because it really does suck. So there we go. Make certain that you leave your queer facts in the comments below so I can pick them up for next video if you want to be featured, and I'll see you very soon. Mr. E out. Bye.